Hi. In previous lectures, we have already gone through why we use Spring Boot and what are the requirements and prerequisites of Spring Boot. In this lecture, we will start with our first Spring Boot application. Though there are various ways to start a Spring Boot application, for now we will do it with one of the most simplest approach, that is using Spring Initializer. In order to do that, we have to visit a website which is called Spring Initializer, and its address is https://start.spring.io. Let us start by building a simple application which we will be calling user service. Once you visit start.spring.io, you will see this particular page where you can see that we are currently working with a Maven project and Java and default Spring Boot version 2.1.1. Though you can change from Maven to Gradle and Java to some other languages like Kotlin and Groovy, and you can also alter the version of Spring 2.1 to other version, but we are using currently the defaults. You can also see group and artifacts. So since we are making a sample user service, so let us define the group and artifact for our project. So let's say we will be using com.codingsaint.tutorial.spring as a group, and since we are building user service, so let us define our artifact as user service. Okay. Now we can search for dependencies, or you can switch on the full version and you can see a range of dependencies. So you can either pick from these other dependencies which are present and which Spring Boot supports, or you can directly write it here. So let us start by writing few dependencies which we will be using further in our project. For our demo, we will use web, which is a default choice as we are building a REST API. Next, along with web, let us add a database. For this tutorial, let us add H2 in-memory database. Since we are using H2 database, why not use JPA to deal with database and add a dev tool which will in fact help us in reloading the server with every time there is a code change in our tutorial. So at first, let us add the JPA support, and at the end we will be adding dev tools, which you can see which is also there written by default here, but let us add a dev tool so that we can enjoy our work while we are developing. So what will happen once you add dev tools, Spring will automatically reload the inbuilt server. So as I said in our previous tutorial that we have an option of choosing inbuilt servers. Since we are writing web, so a default inbuilt server of Tomcat will be added. So once we have added all the dependencies, we need to download this project. So for that, all we need to do is to go down and click on Generate Project button. So once you do that, you can actually download a sample Spring Boot application. So once the download is finished, you need to unzip the downloaded project. So once you have unzipped the folder, so let us import this particular folder which is unzipped into STS. We need to import the project which does have pom.xml. So in STS, you can go to File and then Import and select Maven project, that is existing Maven project. Click on Next. So this is inside this particular user service. So this once we select this folder, you will see there is one full project which is selected with pom.xml. Just tap on Finish. So once you do that, the project will be imported here. And if you have downloaded it for the first time, you will see Maven trying to download all those dependencies, and it might take a little while it actually downloads and set up your project. So you can see all the Maven dependencies are being downloaded here. Now, as it has downloaded all these dependencies, all we need to do is to see what is inside this project. So let us start it by expanding the project. The first thing you will notice is pom.xml, which is of utmost importance. Once you go inside pom.xml, you will find different dependencies which we have already imported while downloading the project. So let us see. You can see the JPA is present, starter web is present, DevTools is present, and H2 database is present, along with the testing libraries. One thing which is to be noticed here is that it does have a parent POM version for Spring Boot, which is 2.1.1. At the same time, the same version will be followed for all those dependencies which are basically for starters, which are related to Spring Boot starters. So for example, starter data JPA, all these will be referring the starter parent POM dependency of Spring Boot to get their dependencies. Now, the next thing which is very, very interesting here is once you expand this, you can see there is a main class present, which is for user service application. This user service application is a main class which will be present in all Spring Boot applications. Since we have named our application as user service, so Spring has named it like user service application. Whatever you name, once you are actually downloading a project from start.spring.io, you will be having a main class, and all the Spring Boot applications will have this main class, which is the entry point for it. At the same time, this is very interesting to note that this main class is annotated with an annotation at the rate Spring Boot application. We will go in details about at the rate Spring Boot applications in our later chapters. But at this point of time, all we need to do is to start this particular main class. So just right click here, and you can run it as a Java application or a Spring Boot app. We are getting the facility of a Spring Boot app because we are using STS. If you are using Eclipse, all you will see is a Java application. You can run it as whatever you wish. So at this point of time, let's start it with a Java application. So once we start it as a Java application, we can notice the logs are being printed here. So it's starting, and you can see there is a Tomcat which is inbuilt in it since we have added our web dependencies, and it says that server is initialized with 8080 port. And even at the last line, what you can notice is the started user service applications in 16.345 seconds. So let's see what we have got now. So let us start Chrome and see that do we really have an application running at 8080? Yes, we can see there is an error page which is coming, but there's something certainly running at 8080. So this is the easiest way you can see that we have started and imported a project from start.spring.io and created a Spring Boot application, which is by default now running at 8080.